when you think about how do I create accountability, I can't just talk about what I want to do, right? Like I want to lose 10 pounds, right? Versus the framing of like, I am somebody that is fit. All right, what is up, everybody? Episode, I already forgot, 34 of Pursuit of Balance. I'm going to talk about accountability stacks. And I kind of accountability layers. There's a couple of titles I'm playing around with as always. But obviously, I think for most people listening to this comes into a huge role that a lot of us miss out on is like, how do we create these systems that we can put in place to better our chances of success, which is in relationship to the accountability side of it. You know, I've always said when I talk to people in the beginning of an assessment that I'm like, generally, there's 4 big reasons why you're here. Number 1 is you don't have the knowledge or the know-how to get from point A to point B, right? Number 2 is maybe you don't have the structure. Structure sounds similar to knowledge, but like the way that I represent it is like knowledge could be the execution of like how to deadlift with good form. Structure could be like how many reps, how many sets, how would I periodize my program so I like it actually progressively overload so I can see some success. So more of the planning. Third one, which we're going to talk about a lot today, is going to be the accountability side, which a lot of people, when we think about this idea, like I am missing accountability, we think about that as like, I don't have discipline, right? Which to a degree is true, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about the systems that we can put in place to actually better our chances with that. Then the fourth and final one is just motivation, right? Like there are a handful of people that transparently are just like not very excited about exercise or motivated by it. So motivation is something that I need to work on. And I talk about this a lot in the relationship to the results or success that somebody has is generally going to be the derivative of their motivation. So it's like, if I can improve their results, I can improve their motivation. So I talk about this a lot. I share this probably, I think sometimes even more with the team than I do even with you guys. So I think it's an important thing for you guys to figure out that like, I think James Clear says this from Atomic Habits that like we don't rise to our goals, we fall to our systems, right? Or we fall to our standards is another way to look at it. And the systems that you put in place are going to really dictate how successful you're going to be with the goals that you have in place. And this is, as always, not just a gym thing, not just a nutrition thing, but a lifestyle piece, a work piece, a financial piece, right? So I put this into 3 categories. I wrote one section is going to be kind of the external accountability pieces. Second section is I put more structural accountability pieces. And then the third and final one is I put the internal accountability piece, right? So let's start from the top. The first one, and I talk about this all the time, obviously with the gym, is appointment accountability, right? So scheduling a time, someone expecting you, the social pressure that comes with that, cost of canceling. Like obviously if you have a cancellation fee with some appointments, like I know my barber does, I know my chiropractor does, like if we don't show up to an appointment, we're paying for it, which I'll touch on later, could be another degree of accountability. But when you think about appointment accountability, I was looking up and I was like trying to find some like, you know, I always like to find some data to back things up a little bit. So it's not just my opinion on all of this, but you know, interesting thing, it was like saying that like 10% success of just making the idea. So for people that say, hey, I want to do this, I would like to lose some weights. That's the idea. But if no other action or no other systems are put in place, 10% chance that's likely it's going to happen. Third one, or the second one I put down was making a plan actually basically increase it to a 50% chance of success, right? Meaning that if actually I was going to say, hey, I want to lose some weight and I'm going to now draw out my workout plan or my diet plan or my business plan, then now I increase the odds up to a 50%, right? And then what we're talking about in this section is scheduling an appointment increased it up to 95%, right? So like I think about this a lot. Like I try to like look at this for like analogies for people, right? You know, like I think about this with like Cisco with his marathons, and a lot of people like to do the marathon running. And it's like, you know, there's so many people that I talk to that are in the gym that like have this ambition of, hey, I would love to run a marathon. But then there's some people that are actually booking an event, actually paying for it, actually getting people to do it with, like they're all these systems get put in place pretty quickly. And those are the ones that transparently are doing it, right? So when you think about scheduling an appointment, right? So no matter what the goal is, I think for most of us listening to this, we're trying to focus on how do I optimize my fitness or my health or my nutrition or, my mental state or my financial state or whatever it might be. The action of the action of booking an appointment, for me, I always look at it as kind of step one. Like just do something, right? Like get the ball rolling on something that's got to actually get you to Take time out of your day. I wrote down social pressure because like I think there's this obligatory thing around meeting somebody that like we don't like to bail on people, right? Or obviously the cost side of it, which I'll touch on in a second as well. But like having somebody else that you're going to meet, right? Doesn't matter if it's for a coffee or if it's for an appointment or if it's for an interview, whatever it might be. But that scheduled appointment is going to be a one layer of accountability, right? So that's number one. Number two, which I was saying I'm going to kind of touch on in a second when I was saying cost of canceling, is I put financial, right? I tell this story a lot because this was actually at Mountain View, and it's a client's friend, basically one of my client's friends that was referred, and she was going through an assessment. I forget which coach she was going through. And I've touched on this stuff like, here and there on and off. And she goes, "Hey, like, it's nice to meet you." Like, cause we never really met. Like I just basically set up the appointment and never really met face to face. And she goes, "I love your podcast. I love your newsletters. I've been following for a while." She's like, "The only thing I just like don't like is like the financial one." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like kind of confused. And she was like, "I don't think we have to pay for things to take it, like be serious about it." And I was like, "Just an opinion." And it was interesting because she didn't really train here for very long. And I see her, we follow her on the FL page, and she's always getting some trip or some plastic surgery or something. I'm like, man, she's spending a lot of money from the outside point of view. But that was just a weird tangent story that always pops up in my mind when I think about this one. So what I mean by this is like, there's something called loss aversion, right? Loss aversion is basically this idea that like the human psyche does not like losing as much as we like gaining, right? Which is an interesting thing because I think a lot of us, we would probably consciously say like, "Oh, no, no, no. Like I'd rather make more money," right? Versus like the idea of like being scared to lose money, right? But from what I saw, loss aversion is 2 times more powerful than reward motivation, right? So humans just hate losing money more than they like getting rewards, right? But also when you think about this commitment side, right? And it's the old saying, like, put your money where your mouth is, right? Like, a lot of times we talk about these ideas, we talk about our goals, we talk about the things that we want to accomplish in life. But the reality is, like, we're not really, once again, taking action towards putting the money where the mouth is, right? It's like, hey, if you want to go do it, go buy the program, go buy the diet, go pay for the coach, go pay for the gym, go pay for the nutritionist, go pay for the financial planner, like, go pay for the therapist, like, go take your money and invest it into yourself, right? Because for me, I like the way that I look at it as an expense versus an investment is an investment. The mindset is, what is my return, right? What is my ROI? What am I getting back? An expense is like, what does it cost me, right? Like, and I don't look at it as so much like as a return sometimes. Now, I think there is a cool reframing that we can all take to make almost most things look like an investment, because like there's plenty of argument. Like if I was talking to a financial person, they'd probably disagree with this statement. But like for me, it's like, okay, let's use cars. I'm a car guy. Out of all things that I'm financially weak on, it's definitely like automobiles. And I look at it as an investment, right? Not because I'm making money. Like I don't look at it as a monetary investment. I look at it as like a fulfillment investment. Like it makes me happy. I enjoy my cars. I love my cars. I love those things. So for me, it's like I get an ROI out of it, right? But when it comes to accomplishing goals, you need to understand that the investment that you're going to make is going to force you psychologically and unconsciously to take it more serious, right? Like last year, I was like, you know what? I really want to start taking this real estate thing and investing more serious, right? So I paid for a $10,000 membership, and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn the game. I want to understand it. I want to work with somebody that's doing it way better than I am. And that forced me to get in the game. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm in a position where it's like, oh, I'm making offers on properties and I'm doing it. Like, it's not where I want it to be yet, but allowed me to at least move the needle, because I, in my head, was like, I am not going to waste 10 grand just for the hell of it, right? Second thing was like the business mentorship thing. I'm going to, by the time you guys hear this, will probably be at a week or two from now, I'm going to Vegas. And, I spent 5 grand on this business mentorship, and it's like a scaling workshop, because I'm kind of at this roadblock where I was like, I'm talking a lot, right? And I don't like talking a lot for the sake of like, oh, these are my ambitions, these are my goals, right? Because like I think at the beginning stage of anything, ideation is number one, right? Doesn't matter if you're starting a business, if you're trying to figure out how to reshape your health, whatever it is. So I think ideation is the start of it. But I do think like all these things that we're talking about today are the next step, right? Because that accountability system that you put in place It's not going to guarantee it, but it's definitely going to increase your odds tremendously, right? So for me, putting money down and investing into something that is aligned for what your goal is going to be a game changer when it comes to accountability, because we will always take things more serious the more expensive they are. It's just a random thing that our human psyche does. I always like to reframe this for clients. I do understand that like our gym and our model can be more expensive than other models. Some people go like, "Oh, this is expensive," and I'm like, "Okay, compared to what?" And that's always like my answer back, right? And what I mean by that is like compared to what, right? Like, yeah, a twice a week membership at Functional Lifestyles is $360 a month or $180 every 2 weeks. That could be expensive relative to an F45 or an Orange Theory, where you're getting unlimited maybe for that price or even less than that, right? But it could be cheap if you compare that to personal training where people are charging anywhere from 120 to $200 an hour. So I always like to say, when you're saying compared to what are we comparing this to? But what I've realized in my career is like the people, and this is not just a parallel 100%, but like the people that invest the most into themselves, they spend the money on the trainer, they spend the money on the gym, they spend the money on the shoes, they spend the money on the supplements, they spend the money on the nutrition, are also the ones that generally have the best results and have the best success. Now, is that a requirement? No, it just is going to lessen the requirement for discipline to be the thing that drives it. So I've always said, and this is something I live by for myself, like if you want to take something more serious, financially put your money where your mouth is. Third one, social aspect, right? This is a huge one, right? When someone else is involved, quitting feels worse. We don't like quitting in front of our coworkers, in front of our, significant other, our kids, our friends, our neighbors, like whatever it is. There's a huge social element that humans operate by, right? So this could be partners, this could be joining running clubs, this could be group classes. We talk about this a little bit with like our model and like not just our model, but I think group models when it comes to fitness. Like I love group training more so than personal training, personally, right? And what I've always said is like, I like the energy, I like the ambiance, I like the environment, I like the competitive atmosphere, but I've always liked the social aspect of it, right? Because that social aspect creates an accountability layer that most people kind of sleep on. They don't think about it as much. Some people are aware of it and understand the value of it, and some people just like, it's an unconscious thing. They're like, wow, like I was actually more excited about my training, or it was more fun. Because like if we can enjoy the process or enjoy what we're trying to do, the likelihood of you being more committed to it is going to be 10x, right? So like that is always an element that I try to like work on with people, is like, how can I get your social circle to also be involved with you, right? How can I get those neighbors or those coworkers or your wife or husband or your kids? How can I get them to train with you? Because A, it's going to be more fun. B, there's a social element of we don't want to quit in front of other people. And that in return is going to create accountability, right? So that's number 3. Number 4, public accountability. Cisco and I actually talked about this, on and off a handful of times. I know he did this for, I always bring up this story now because I always think it was hilarious. So he did like this run at like 3 a.m. in the morning for when he was training for his last marathon. And, he was like, I was like, why 3 a.m.? And he was like, that was the only thing that was going to work with his schedule for that day. So he was telling everyone, right? He was telling everyone at the gym. And I was like, that's good. Like, he was like, it's public accountability. And like, I love it, right? Because like us saying things in front of other people, right? So when you think about this could be posting on social media and telling the world. This could be telling your family. This could be announcing it at work or announcing at your gym for the sake of this. This could be public challenge boards. Like, how do I make what I'm trying to accomplish more public, right? And the reason why is this, like, it taps into this like reputation pressure, right? The reputation of like, are you not only like, and I kind of touched on this, I think last week with something where I was like, hey, like the number one thing is like, don't lie to yourself, right? Like lying to yourself is one of the worst things because you're creating this frame and you're creating this mental framework around that, like, you saying something doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. But if like you can learn to say something to yourself and stick with it, or you learn to say something to other people and stick with it, that obviously is building integrity, right? So the public accountability is just an additional layer, because if I only tell myself, there are plenty of people that tell themselves that they're going to do things and then they don't. But is it embarrassing if you never told anybody? I don't view it as that embarrassing, unless you're more disciplined or hard on yourself, or really, really kind of have like, a hardcore belief in integrity, which you would hope all humans do. But like, no matter who you are, myself included, like, it's I say like, hey, like I don't want to be eating as late, right? I would like to maybe slow down drinking a little less red wine or red wine during the weekdays, right? So I said things, but like I haven't made it serious enough, right? Like, the one thing that we need to remember, and I'll touch on this at the end of the kind of episode, that like, in order to tie all this in, the first thing I always touch on is like, you got to make the goal serious enough. There has to be enough pain. There has to be enough emotion. There has to be enough desire to make the change, because all this stuff creating accountability for something that's not that serious to you is a different story. So I think the framework of what I want you guys to think about is these systems and everything that I'm talking about today have to be second step of an important goal, because it's something you just talk about, right? It's something like you don't really take serious, because all this stuff, you could do it and still not have success. And the reason why is like, well, maybe it wasn't that important to you. Maybe it was out of alignment for what you thought it was going to be. Maybe it was more of like, hey, this is an ego-driven goal versus actually something I really want. So public accountability, like I said, that's obviously a huge one for a lot of us. I don't know which, I put University of California. Dominican? Oh, okay. This is a study that was basically saying the Dominican University of California showed that writing down goals and reporting them to somebody else improved success by 76%. I was trying to look up different things and data points for all these things, like I said earlier, right? So those are the four. So when you think about external things around you, number one, setting up appointments as an accountability layer. Number two, financially paying and committing and investing into something. Number three, the social layer of it, getting other people involved. And then number four, public accountability, telling people that maybe aren't even your core circle, because there's an element of us sometimes wanting to showcase to other people that we don't even know or we don't even care about. I think about this a lot of like the materialistic world that some people live in, that they're so fixated on showcasing their importance to other people, or we're so fixated on the opinions of people that we'll never meet or never see or never agree with. But that is a human psyche thing that I'm like, hey, take advantage of it. Like, that is a layer of accountability that you can leverage. Okay, so section 2, we're going to work now on the structural accountability side, right? So this one, the first one I wrote down is time, right? So I think having deadlines, having events, signing up for races, deadlines, the beautiful thing about this, I talk about this all the time with work, is like deadlines create urgency, right? And for me personally, I am somebody that I considered to be a little bit of a procrastinator, right? And there's this law called Parkinson's law, right? Which basically work expands to the time available, right? So what that means is like, if I say I have to do whatever project and I give myself 6 months to do it, the likelihood that I'm going to wait towards the end or really procrastinate, but I'll still get it done because I have a timeline, that work took longer to accomplish. First, if I said, hey, can I do this in 2 weeks? And the aspect of the reality of it getting done doesn't sound possible in the beginning when people think about it this way. But Parkinson's law is basically saying that whatever the timeline you put in place, you will do your best to make it work because of the timeline. So it doesn't matter if it's like, hey, next week I'm going to be quizzing you on this, or hey, week 2 or 2 months from now I'm going to be quizzing you on this. The 2-month scenario, that person is naturally going to just go move a little bit slower, take a little bit more time, procrastinate on what they need to do. So having a time-bound goal, right, having a deadline behind it, that is a huge layer of accountability that adds structure to your life, right? I think about Coach Damien here. He's one of those animals that just like signs up for so many different things and like just on the fly, right? But like he commits himself, right? The reason why he's so accountable to what he does and so successful with what he does is because of that, right? Like he just like, I was just talking to my wife this morning who trains with him, and he was like, oh, I'm doing a race in Arizona, like a 50-mile race. Like, I don't know her, like the guys are the freak in so many good ways, but that is a layer of accountability. Sign up for it. Show up, right? Even if you don't know if you're going to be successful or not, or fail at it, like the act of just taking action to do something to create a layer of accountability forces you to do it, right? And at the end of the day, ideation without execution is a waste of fucking time, right? So it sounds good. I think there's a lot of times in life that we like to talk about the things that we want to accomplish in life, our business goals, or, I'll give you guys an example. I've talked about this for now 34 episodes, that one of my goals with season 2 was, I want to start bringing guests on. Guess what? Still 34 episodes deep, right? So like I am missing a huge layer of accountability that like I could be capitalizing on, right? And like, why are these things not in place? Is it because it's not important for me? Is it because I'm lazy? Is it because I'm procrastinating it? Like there's all these excuses that we can all make up, but like there's different areas of different parts of our lives where we are more accountable than others. But you're going to see which one you are more serious about. But like I said, my conversation today is really to help you guys out for the ones that are serious. Number 6 is a measurement accountability, right? So when I think about structure, adding obviously time, like we touched on. Number 2 would be measuring, right? So this could be tracking workouts. This could be tracking calories. This could be tracking weight. This could be tracking your habits. What gets measured gets managed. That's obviously one of my favorite sayings when it comes to most things in life. And I personally, when it comes to the business side, like I am a huge advocate of measuring as much as possible, right? I do think there's a degree that like for some things, when you think about the goal is to create intuition, that measuring can maybe be a starting point or maybe be a phase or maybe be a season, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be forever. But there's some things like when I think about, I'll talk about the financial side of it. Like when it comes to measuring business, like I measure the class sessions, we measure the check-ins, we measure cancellations, retention, we measure sales appointments, show rates, close rate. Financials I look at daily, multiple times a day. Like for me, when it comes to the business, I am very measurement forward, right? Because for me, it's like data takes emotions out of things, right? Like I don't need the emotion to be involved. I want the data to be running it. I want there to be something objective behind it. And then I can follow up with some of the emotional stuff as I go. So when you think about, this is also another cool stat, people that tracked food lost 2 times more weight than those that didn't, right? So when you think about the success of what you're trying to do, and let's talk about health and fitness, if I said, hey, I have a client that's going to work on, and I see this all the time, right? And for me personally as a coach, I like clients kind of going through a little bit of this journey on their own to, it sounds weird, but almost prove themselves wrong, because I think a lot of times when it comes to tracking, there's this almost pushback and friction that a lot of people have. Like, I don't want to track. I don't find it sustainable. I'm like, okay, so let's figure out different strategies that we can go without tracking to hopefully create some success, right? But I always say, I personally believe that the best thing that you can do in the beginning is track, because what I wrote down is like the driver behind this is awareness, right? Awareness and accountability, right? And accountability obviously being the thing we're talking about. But with tracking, I'm aware. I'm aware of the calories. I'm aware of the macros. I'm aware of the micros. Tracking my workouts. I'm aware of what I'm actually progressing in. I'm aware of like how I'm showing up with my attendance. I'm aware of these habits that I've built. But if you're not, you're relying on this subjective scale of, am I being successful or not? And even with tracking, there's obviously, it's not foolproof, because even, there's plenty of data and people talking about like how people that track are still not, it's not a perfect science, because it's hard to really know exactly how many calories you're burning a day. It's hard to know how much weight of each food unless you're actually carrying a scale around. Like, so it's like, it's not a perfect science either, but it's a hell of a lot better than just relying on the subjectivity side of things. So measurement accountability is that number for 6, right? Number 7, I put environmental, right? So this is like how you set things up around you, right? So I put meal prep is a huge one, right? Like if you think about nutrition, like obviously I think one of the most successful habits that someone can get into the habit of doing is cooking their own food and prepping for themselves. When I don't prep, I would say, and I feel pretty disciplined in a lot of areas when it comes to health and nutrition, for the most part. I would say about 80%, like even without a plan or a structure, I've just built so many habits of just doing this for so long. But like, there's those times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out and maybe I'm not getting the best thing for my goals right now. Or maybe I'm going to get like a little sugar drink with, like, it's just easy to sometimes just get a little off track, right? Versus like today, it's like last night I made steak, rice, and broccolini. And it's like, I brought that as meal prep, right? So for me, it's like, I know what I'm eating today because I prepped it, right? I set my environment up for me to be successful, right? So when you think about the gym, right? I always like to tell people that gym is a convenience thing. People will sign up for gyms because they're convenient, right? And I understand that, like the geographical location of the habit that you're trying to build matters, right? I was talking to Billy about this yesterday. So I bought a road bike and a little fancy grill from one of our clients that's moving. And my wife was like, why are you buying a road bike? Like you don't ride your bikes much anymore. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like I really want to. And I want to get back on the bike. I love mountain biking more than any other bike formation, right? It doesn't matter if it's cruising on a beach or whatever. Like I love mountain biking. I don't really care for road biking. But I will say this. The accessibility side of just leaving my house and going on a ride for a while and coming back, is much more likely of me doing it versus me driving somewhere, going in the middle of the mountains with no service and doing some mountain biking, unless I'm doing that with other people, which is the social element. So I look at the reality of like the environment is setting me up to like have a better chance of being more successful on a road bike, even if I don't do it, as much as I would like to on a mountain bike compared to it. But like at least getting on the bike is something that like I have a goal for myself of like, hey, once a week or twice a month, even like, can I get on the bike and get a longer ride for some aerobic work that I'm trying to work on, right? So setting up your environment will shape your behavior. The driver behind this is the friction control, right? Like the more friction you put in place, the more obstacles you have to overcome to accomplish something, the less likely you are to be successful with it, right? Like James Clear, once again, I talk about this book all the time because I think it's one of the best books that every human should read. When he talks about this in Atomic Habits, like if you want to break a bad habit, you have to make it hard to do, right? So the example that I give all the time is like, if I really, really wanted to stop drinking wine in the weekdays, I shouldn't just have any wine in the house. I should remove the cue, right? If I didn't want sweets, I should just not shop for that kind of stuff, right? Like I should set up my environment at home that when I am going to be in the weakest potential, right? What I mean by that is me personally, I feel weakest as far as my discipline later at the end of the day. I'm tired. I'm home. It's my finish line. I like to just pour myself a glass of wine, whatever work I just got to finish up, start cooking, and I like to relax with my wife. I just want to watch TV. I want to chill. But my cravings are then the worst at the night, and I just like don't have the discipline. I'm like, fuck it. Like if I want a goddamn cinnamon roll, I'm having a cinnamon roll, right? Like whatever it is. Like, so I think like that's an environment thing, right? Like the reason why I still do these things every once in a while is because it's easy. It's there, right? If I didn't want it, if I wanted to make it like something I removed, I need to create friction. I need to create obstacles. And it's the exact opposite, obviously, for those that are trying to create a habit. Let's make it easy, right? So when you think about this, is like, how do I shape your environment to be successful for what you want to do? If you want to go run in the morning or you want to go run after work, you want to go to the gym after work, but you're getting in this habit where you go home to grab your stuff. It's like, bring your clothes to work, right? Bring your gym clothes, bring your running shoes, right? So obviously, like vicinity, geographical location, meal prep, clothes laid out, those are things that I wrote down. So those like environmental, measure, and time are the structure kind of accountability pieces. The last one I wrote down is kind of what I wrote is internal, because I do talk about this a lot. And once again, I'm going to bring up Atomic Habits because I just told you it's an amazing book, but is identity, right? When you think about how do I create accountability, I can't just talk about what I want to do, right? Like I want to lose 10 pounds, right? Versus the framing of like, I am somebody that is fit, right? It's like, oh, I want to start running more. No, I am a runner, right? And I think the language that we speak to ourselves every single day is one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to reshaping the identity, because the language is your identity. How you talk to yourself is generally what you're going to get the outcome from, right? So it's like if I say I want to do X versus I am X, there is a very, very different thought process, right? So someone who trains, I'm someone who takes care of my health. Like behavior is the follow-up to identity, right? And then, the driver behind this is your self-image, right? I think the reason why so many of us in life would in different areas, right? Like this is not like you are this person. It could just be like, you are this person in this area of your life, right? But it's directly tied to your self-image, right? So if you're someone that joins the gym, comes off, quits, joins the gym, comes off, I see this a lot with my job, right? Like their identity hasn't changed yet, right? And it's something that I always like to challenge people and once again reframe on the front end is a lot of times people will set all these goals. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to be stronger. I don't want to have back pain. I want to get off medication. I want to reduce my stress levels. The first thing that I always say to kind of like reframe it is the thing that you need to do is your number one goal is you need to show up for 3 times, like whatever they sign up for, right? Whatever they're doing. You need to show up 3 times a week for the first 3 months consistently, right? Like you need 36 sessions over the next 90 days before you even think about these other goals. And like, well, what do you mean by that? Like I'm here for this, right? And I say that I'm not saying that stuff's not important because that is the emotional tie for somebody, right? So if this is a sales thing, but it's like if I just explain someone's needs, right? It's not as exciting because it's logical. If I explain someone's desires, wants, emotions, and the state of how they would feel if they were there, that gets them excited, right? So I'm not saying that. I'm saying for the reality of like having an integrity of what this person needs to do to be successful, but more importantly, be sustainable with their success. is they need to just get in the habit of doing the thing, right? Because the byproduct of doing the thing is the thing that they're here for. So, and I think a lot of times I struggle with this as a coach is like, hey, let's work on this, right? When the reality is like, hey, stage one, like, let's just work on showing up, right? Like for nutrition coaching, right? I used to always change everything. Here's the calories, here's your macros, here's all these things I want you to track. And sometimes, not for everyone, it would feel overwhelming. They're like, oh, this is too much. And I'm like, okay, let's take a step back. And what I've now realized is like, let's focus on one meal for a week, for a month. Let's focus on getting your breakfast to have a little bit more protein, right? Let's focus on getting your dinner to eat a little bit earlier, right? Like whatever that thing is that I'm working with somebody. Because if I can take one little action item and I can create a habit around doing the work and I can execute on it, they're going to have a little bit more motivation, right? And then all these other accountability systems that I've been talking about start to become easier because I'm leveraging the motivation side of it, right? So, like I said, that last one is just really the identity that you carry is going to be the behavior that you have, right? So if you're saying I have a desire to or I want to versus framing it, no, I am this person, right? Like, oh, I want to start a business. No, I am a business owner. What would that person do if I'm a business owner, right? So to tie all this stuff in, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode, I think one of the biggest things that we need to understand is the reason why so many of us aren't successful with goals is because for me, the two main things is they're missing structure. Like they don't have a plan of attack. They don't have any organization of like, what does the roadmap look like? And the roadmap is a little subjective for some of us, right? Like the analogy I use is like me and you can both drive to New York right now and we can take different routes. We'll get there. One might be longer than the other. One might be shorter than the other. One might be prettier than the other, right? One might be more of a boring drive, but like we'll get there, right? Like there's different routes to get to the same destinations in life. So I think structure is a huge part, but the number two, which is the most important thing for me, which is what I talked about today, is like you need to be accountable. And when I say you need to be accountable, I'm saying you need to build systems that are going to make you accountable to the success that you're trying to chase, right? Or trying to attract. But to tie all of that in, I think it's coming from what is this guiding light? What is my lighthouse? What is the thing that I'm getting pulled towards, right? Because when you think about setting your goals in life, you're going to get pulled towards those things, right? You're going to get like, I'm going to be this person, right? And what would this person, for whatever that goal is, do, right? And then how do I better the likelihood of me being successful with that? And that's everything that I talked about today, right? So reshaping the identity, reforming your environment, using measurements as a form of accountability, putting deadlines, events, races, making it time bound is obviously a structure of accountability. Public accountability, tell people, tell coworkers, tell the internet, tell random strangers, who gives a shit? It's going to make you feel socially obligated. Then the next one's social aspect of it. Bring the people that you care about with you because A, it makes it more fun, makes it more enjoyable. You get to do it with other people. You don't want to let them down, which is in return not going to make sure that you quit. Then the next one's financial. Invest into it, put some money where your mouth is. And then the last one is make appointments, right? Schedule times to do things, right? And when you can tie all these things in, that's what I look at as a great accountability stack behind what you're doing, right? And it creates the more systems you have in place, the more gravitational pull of you being successful and sustainable around it will be, right? All right, guys. Well, I hope you got some good little nuggets out of that one. And as always, I will see everyone next week. Take care.